Horrifying video has emerged showing the moment that Russian forces fired mortars at a bridge, killing a family with two children in Irpin. That's just west of Kyiv right there. A warning, this video is disturbing to see, but look, this is what's really happening.
Що вчора було з дітьми, кажеш?
Погано було. Дітей 200-х вивозили, мирне населення, маленькі.
Shit! Shit, 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 shit. Shit.
Смотрите его!
All right.
Stay there!
All right.
No, okay.
Should we go around the corner? Should we go around the corner? Should we go around the corner or not?
Photojournalist Lindsay Addario with the New York Times, whom you saw in that video, captured this image of the victims. She reports a mother, her teenage son, and her daughter died in this attack. You can see the medics working on a man who later died. The mayor of Irpin reported at least 8 people were killed in those strikes on Sunday. I did speak to Mayor Alexander Marushkin a short time ago. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us. You saw these civilians killed before your very eyes. I'm so sorry to have to ask you this, but describe to me what happened.
Вчора взагалі вже декілька днів ми робимо евакуацію.
So we have been evacuating people for 4 days now. On the first day, we evacuated by train. On the second day, they blew up. So on the second day, they shelled the train. On the first day, they shelled the train. On the second day, they blew up the rail track, and 3 people were injured, but those who were accompanying the train. And yesterday, we had an unprecedented incident when a group of people were being led to evacuate, and within 50 meters, I saw a mortar ordnance blew up and killed 2 children, tore them in 2 in front of my very eyes, plus their parents. They were killed in a matter of seconds. And on the whole, 8 people were killed yesterday during evacuation. These are not an army. These are animals. They are killing civilians. They are shelling our city, our residential buildings, and ambulances. They're firing on ambulances. This is just a monstrosity. These are animals. They're not people.
Вчора розстріляли людей, родину, яка їхала в авто з Ірпеня.
Everyone knows that's how civilians are trying to escape by that bridge. We had our reporter there yesterday. Do you think the Russians are targeting civilians?
Yes, this is 100%. They are targeting civilians. Everybody knows where we are taking civilians out by car along the evacuation routes, and they are targeting these routes. They are targeting these people, and this is absolutely true. They're trying to intimidate our population, but they will not succeed.
Mr. Mayor, I have to let you go. I know your own family is going to try to evacuate as soon as they can. You are going to stay behind. Just know that we are thinking about you. Thank you so much for being with us.
New this morning, CNN has confirmed, as the New York Times first reported, that U.S. and some NATO nations have sent nearly 20,000 anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine over the past week. And we're seeing the effect of those on the ground there in Ukraine. So joining us now is one of the reporters who broke this story, CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger. He is a White House and national security correspondent for the Times. This is a really, really well-reported, fascinating piece in the Times this morning, and you're describing, in your words, sort of a Berlin airlift-style event. Tell us about it.
Well, the only real comparison here really is the Berlin airlift. And so with some of my Times colleagues, some in Europe, some here in Washington, what we tried to do was put together the totality of what you're seeing. Some of it is obvious. It's those anti-tank and anti-aircraft armaments that are going out. The pace is remarkable. The 17,000 made it in 6 days because the Biden administration had pre-positioned them in Germany, awaiting President Biden's order to send them in. So they've managed to disperse most of a $350 million aid package in a week. By comparison, it took between August and November last year to disperse a $60 million package. So that's the speed at which it's moved up. But meanwhile, there are cyber teams that were initially in Kiev that are operating from Eastern Europe now, trying to deal with Russian communications and so forth. There are lobbyists and lawyers here in Washington who are
working pro bono, as you point out,
working for free.
And they worked before, and now they are.
That's exactly right. That's not usually what they're known for. But in this case, helping to put together a war crimes kind of evidence in case the administration goes that way.
You mentioned one of the leading firms has actually filed basically a lawsuit, a war crimes lawsuit on the behalf of the Ukrainian government. You also talk about the MiGs that possibly Poland might supply. And there are some complications. This may or may not happen. But the question I really have here is, if that is going to be supplied, at what point does Vladimir Putin say, hey, this makes you guys a co-combatant? And explain why that matters so much, the legal argument, and how the U.S. versus Russia sees that.
Sure. So President Biden's view has been we can supply arms, we can supply intelligence, but we're not going to put American troops in a position where they're facing off directly against Russian troops, Brianna. And that's why he refuses to go along with this no-fly zone, because to enforce the no-fly zone, you need to put American pilots up in the air, and sooner or later they're going to run into Russian pilots, and then you're into the obvious direct conflict issues. But over the weekend, we have now seen the Russians say for the first time to the Ukrainians, if you park your aircraft abroad, somewhere in Romania, the Russians said, and then you launch those from there, we will consider the country or the airfield where it left from to be part of the combat area. Well, of course, that's NATO territory. The American side has a very legalistic description of what you can and cannot do as a co-combatant in real space, in cyberspace. It's not clear that's Vladimir Putin's definition.
I suspect there is disagreement, and
Yes.
I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that. Really fascinating piece, David. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.